Their first fight was thrilling,
Madonna all over Mayweather.
action-packed,
Look at this display by Floyd Mayweather.
the toughest fight of Floyd Mayweather's career.
What a fantastic fight.
So on September 13th, Floyd Mayweather and Marcos Maidana do it again.
Te voy a terminar.
Bring it on, amigo.
Mayhem. Mayweather versus Maidana 2. Saturday, September 13th at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, live on pay-per-view.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the F&M blasts government over mold at PMH. An oil spill in southwestern New Providence has residents concerned. Bahamians sound off on the gaming bill, plus a 100-year-old woman honored by the Queen. I'm Paige McCartney. We've got those stories and more straight ahead on MB12 Weekend. Once again to MB12, a confirmed case of dangerous mold at Princess Margaret Hospital has resulted in the closure of the entire labor and maternity sections of the facility for nearly 2 weeks now. But according to opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, it took nurses and staff on the ward constantly complaining about the issue for the matter to be addressed. In fact, he said for months staff were working under the extreme conditions and mothers were delivering their babies in the mold-infested portion of the facility.
The personnel and the babies, most particularly the infants, were being delivered in this unhygienic environment. The personnel have been complaining for a while. They have now closed it, draped it off with plastic, so they know it's mold infested. They know the staff have been complaining repeatedly about the excess sneezing, the excess coughing, and the respiratory problem. The staff have complained repeatedly that the babies are likewise exposed to this. If you have the facilities available in the critical care block, why not use it? Why would you expose our personnel as well as our babies, newborn babies?
The ward has been closed off and covered in plastic for at least 2 weeks now. MB12 contacted Minister of Health Dr. Perry Gomez, who said that he has been made aware of the issue and renovations to that part of the hospital should get underway by the end of the week. Minnis said he understands that the three remaining operation theaters are now backed up to accommodate deliveries. Minnis said he can't understand why government hasn't been using the newly constructed critical care block.
We have built a critical care block which has 6 operating theaters. The government can easily move those personnel, including the babies who are like the nurses, sneezing and coughing on the ward, being exposed to molds. They can move those babies, the staff, to the critical care block, to the major theaters that we built, so that they can be delivered in a nice, friendly, clean environment. The government is obviously irresponsible and do not care to have our personnel still exposed to this unhygienic environment when we, the F&M, have built the facilities and the government has the facilities waiting unoccupied.
Last week, Director of the Public Hospitals Authority, Herbert Brown, indicated that the critical care block has obtained a $35 million loan from CIBC First Caribbean International Bank to cover the cost of furniture and equipment for the facility. He said the PHA has already ordered $16 million worth of equipment. He said a date has been set for the facility to open, but there must be cabinet approval. Minnis said government must work quickly to resolve the issues surrounding PMH and the critical care block because once value-added tax is implemented on private health care and insurance in January, there will be an increased demand on the already overburdened public facility.
What happens is more personnel will move to the public sector because they cannot afford the private sector. So those individuals who would have had insurance, if they had moved to the public sector today, imagine their babies would have likewise been exposed to this unhygienic area when the remedy is there. The remedy is sitting. So they cannot use an excuse that they don't have money. What is most important? The lives of our personnel, the lives of our medical personnel, of our doctors, the lives of our patients, the maternity patients, the lives of our babies. What is more important? When they just admitted that they spent $50 million in unrest, you don't think they could have diverted some?
Numerous challenges have plagued PMH's critical care block. PHA Chairman Frank Smith said recently that in addition to insufficient funding for essential technology, officials had not recruited the staff needed to operate the facility. Well, Adelaide residents fear that recurring oil spills are ruining the beach in that community. Residents said a massive oil spill occurred Thursday. Take a look at these pictures taken by outraged residents showing thick, dark oil covering portions of the beach. Environmentalist Sam Duncan said she is worried that these oil spills will eventually ruin local beaches. Following the oil spill at Clifton Pier last week, the head instructor at Stuart Cove, Gary Vohek, said there was another oil spill about 2 miles along. He said he believes that the oil is coming from tanks at BEC's Clifton Pier power plant. However, that has not been confirmed by BEC officials. Well, despite tourism minister and minister responsible for gaming, Obi Walshcombe's recent assertion that there's nothing discriminatory about the new gaming bill, some Bahamians aren't convinced. Just this week, former gaming board chairman said he would not support the bill because of its discriminatory elements. Well, Simone Davis took to the streets to find out what the public thinks and filed this report.
Some residents say that if Bahamians are not allowed to gamble in casinos and foreigners are not allowed to gamble in web shops, it would be a good way to control the gaming industry, but also protect the tourism industry.
I spoke with a croupier recently, and I asked her about it, and she said that she don't want Bahamians to come in the casino because actually she said they're afraid they're going to start fights and stuff like that. Not everybody, because a lot of us, we know how to conduct ourselves, but some of us don't. So the innocent is going to suffer for the guilty. And one thing we do not want that to have an effect on the tourists coming here, because after all, tourism is our #1 industry.
I think we are a Christian nation, and most of our people are family people, and with Bahamian mixing with tourist gambling, I don't think that's a good sign, because the gentlemen and the ladies will take their money to the casino every weekend instead of taking it home to their families and stuff. That's the way I look at it, you see. So I don't think that's not a good mix.
Like any other thing, you have to know when is your limit. Anything you do in life, you have to know when it's your limit. So whether they go in the casino, because we have casinos now, so whether they go in the casino or not go in the casino, whatever you do that develops a habit, you have to know when it's time to stop.
However, others believe the bill sets limitations on Bahamians who should be afforded the same rights as visitors to their country.
Well, I think it's a discrimination against Bahamians. Me personally, I don't intend to go into a casino and gamble, but I don't think that, if somebody, a Bahamian wants to go, I think they should be allowed to do so.
To me, to be honest with you, I feel like, to me, we as Bahamians, we live here, we born in Nassau, Bahamas, and I feel like we should have privilege to be able to gamble in a casino also, you know what I mean? But at the same time, make sure have a where set up where the tourists could be by themselves and have their own section for them to gamble, and the Bahamians stay on their section to gamble. Because I know some of them, when they go in there, they lose control and they just carry on and stuff. So make sure have people in place to make sure that everything runs smooth on decency and order.
After the revised gaming bill was tabled in Parliament last week, Wilchcombe said it is a possibility for Bahamians to be able to gamble in casinos and foreigners would be able to patronize web shops. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
And the country's top anti-money laundering official says various sectors of society will have to contribute to ensuring that the Bahamas' reputation as a top financial center remains intact once legislation covering the numbers industry is enacted. Stephen Thompson was the first official to publicly raise concern that external pressures could force the government to act on web shop regularization. He told NB12 that it's not only the passage of appropriate legislation, but the seriousness with which it is enforced that will determine whether the Bahamas financial sector is saved from a negative assessment by bodies such as the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. While not wishing to comment on the content of the legislation directly, Thompson said all relevant stakeholders must ensure that laws passed by our Parliament must be effectively implemented to ensure full compliance with global standards. And at 100 years old, Gwendolyn Clark has lived a full life, and now she's the recognition from the Queen of England for it. Clark's family and friends sent a request through Government House petitioning Buckingham Palace to send a notice. and it did. The privilege is only held by 300,000 people worldwide, and Clark was just added to the roster. Her family presented her with the official notice, and in true fashion, the centenarian showed nothing but humility.
I don't know about that. I don't know how that got to the Queen. I don't know.
You're just being humble, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I didn't think the Queen would recognize me, and, you know, I didn't think about that. I just think that I was 100 years old, and that was that.
And for her age, Ma Gwen, as she's affectionately called, is quite sprightly. Having worked as a cook all her life, the 100-year-old said she still cooks for herself, and every Sunday she makes a big dinner.
I cook just like you cook peas and rice and baked chicken and like that. I could do all of that.
Clark was born in 1914 in Green Turtle Key, Abaco. And just to show how times have changed over a century, Clark said when she finished school at the age of 14, she got married just 2 years later at the age of 16. When her husband died, she moved to Nassau and then settled into her home in Fox Hill, where she's lived for more than 50 years. She said she's seen Nassau change drastically over the decades.
Plenty difference. Because when I first came here, it wasn't no killing and shooting and carrying on like now. No, it wasn't that. Even when I came up in Fox Hill 50 years ago, we could have sleep with the house open. Nobody would bother you, nobody would trouble you, but you can't do it now.
Ma Gwen says people's attitudes are different today than they were when she was younger. She says there's even a difference in the kind of leadership in the country.
Well, it's the generations, you know, the different generations, different people and different government and everything like that. Yeah. The House Assembly, how it is today, when I came here, the House Assembly wasn't like that, you know.
And Clark credits God and her commitment to the Church of God for her long life and liveliness. Clark actually turned 100 on February 2nd, but only recently received her notice from Buckingham Palace. Her family and the Fox Hill community held a special service for her yesterday at the Church of God, Burnett Road, to celebrate her 100 years.